The Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state that on August 23rd, 2019, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel, Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of this meeting. I would ask all to rise for this legal flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Coggin?
Here.
Mr. Corson?
Present.
Mr. Young?
Here.
And Mayor Plummer?
Here.
All members are present.
All right, would someone like to make a motion for the August 12th, 2019 regular and closed session meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor
Will
Plummer?
abstain, he was not present at the last meeting.
Motion is carried with 4 in favor.
All right. Scott, do you have something for us or anything for us this evening?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and committee members. Two things this evening. First, I would like to introduce a new element to our Upper Township website, and that's called Senior Living. Senior Living is our township's way of to enhance the quality of life and independence for seniors of Upper Township. Our focus there is to educate through not only educational, recreational, and social services that meet the needs of and interests of our seniors, those who may have disabilities, and generally all members of the community. It's basically a portal for a lot of information that Paul and I both realized, and some of our other departments too, have received throughout a period of time, and we felt that it would be a good thing to add on to our website and start to build that informational portal, if you will, for our seniors in this community.
So, I guess just, not to get too detailed, but we're not talking about like commercial entities, right? We're talking about where hospitals and clinics and those kind of things would be available, Social Security office, et cetera,
Yes.
those kind of things.
Also, updates like where, you're always seeing like, warnings from the IRS and the different police agencies will put out warnings, scams and different things, and other informational things just to kind of help guide them. Also, some of the other recreational amenities that, we have available. There's a large group of pickleball that they play. We have the bike walking path. Just the different activities and activities at the just to highlight at the senior center. They have a lot of different activities and groups that you can join in for cards and different activities. So we just saw this that gap that we
and that's
need to fill.
that's what I would envision that this site should be. And I would include, some of the associations of AARP as a meeting. There's no problem putting that on there. I just want to make sure we don't creep into like some kind of commercial thing where we're like supporting, some sort of commercial entity. So.
Not at all. More informational than anything else. The second thing I have for you this evening is I'm pleased to announce that, actually this goes back a little ways. Back in 2015, the end of 2015, we put in an application to the National Weather Service for something that's called Storm Ready Community. Basically, it's a grassroots approach to help communities develop plans to handle all types of extreme weather, such as tornadoes, from tornadoes to winter storms. The program encourages communities to take a new proactive approach to improving local hazardous weather operations and providing emergency managers with a clear-cut guidelines on how to improve their hazardous weather operations. So although we submitted this application back in 2015, the application stayed live through that whole period of time. They ran into some issues back then where they had some cuts in their funding and staffing, so they weren't able to actively get out and really review, because it is a pretty big review process. It's a comprehensive review process. But I'm pleased to announce that we do qualify for this, and we'll be receiving notification before the next meeting, an actual letter of certification, and they provide you with a sign so that we can post it at the entrance of our township to show that we are a storm-ready community. And this is not something that every community has. It's not necessarily exclusive to Upper Township, but there's a few municipalities that have this storm-ready community recognition. We're just basically pleased that we've qualified through our emergency management and also through the CRS program. This gives us potentially some more credits toward our CRS program, and that's for the flood insurance. So, that is all I have tonight.
Okay. That's good. Barbara?
Nothing to report, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but a few handful of items for closed.
Okay. Paul?
Good evening, everyone. First, I just wanted to let the committee know I think it might not have been in this mail, but you should see it coming pretty soon. We did receive the permit from the NJDEP for the replacement of the Putnam Avenue bulkhead. So now that I have that permit, I can finalize the construction plans, and we can look to go out to bid probably in the middle of September to get that project constructed for winter time. And then, as a reminder, I just wanted to let everyone know and the public know that tomorrow evening, the 27th, from 6 to 8 p.m., Ørsted, the wind energy company that's looking to do the offshore wind off the coast here in South Jersey, they're having a public information session for residents, just to kind of introduce everybody to offshore wind and how it works. And they're not going to have specific details of where it's going and how it's going and that, but it's more of an overview of wind energy and how it works. So that's tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m. over at the Ocean City Senior Center Library Center. They will be having two other sessions, one over, I believe, in Galloway Township, possibly, and another one up in Lacey Township.
No, you said a senior center library?
The library, yeah.
Where is that in Ocean City?
16th.
Oh, it's at the library itself?
Yeah, it's at the library itself.
They used to have it on, I guess at Bay Avenue.
Bay Avenue, right around 32nd Street.
Yeah, no, but the American Legion took that over and they moved it several years ago to 16th Street.
Okay.
That's how they have it listed, but it's at the library in Ocean City.
How's county paving project on 628? Is that, any updates on that?
I'll see the county engineer actually tomorrow. The last I knew that it was going to be going out to bid either in August or September. I haven't seen it come out to bid yet, so I'm imagining it's going to go out to bid in September.
And Paul and I are attending the open space meeting in the county tomorrow morning to find out where we are with Beasley's Point, so.
That's all I had. Thank you.
All right, Committeeman Coggins,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Committeeman Young.
One or two things. We had talked before about the Beasley's Point boat ramp, about moving forward and getting some ideas for fixing that. Have we made any strides in that as far as finding an engineer?
I have to go out to, I was going to prepare a proposal to go out to find some surveying price quotes, but beyond that, I've got the proposal ready, but I haven't sent it out to get the survey quotes.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few complaints about the condition of it down there again this year, and people squawk about having to pay for something in that bad a shape. So I just want to be able to go back to them and say we're moving forward, and some kind of a time frame, we'll have an idea what we're going to do with it.
Well, I think it also has to be coordinated with what type of proposed revisions are going to take place at Beasley's Point too, based on the county funding and things of that nature. So, and then simultaneously, I think many of us are working on trying to figure out why you can't at least use the walkway on the parkway to go over to Summers Point and walk back or something, because it's just sitting there and there's no reason why it can't be used.
Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is, with the boat ramp itself, we're moving forward with the bike stuff. And I don't want to have that come to completion, and then we're going to go in there and tear it apart to fix the boat ramp again. It should all be done simultaneously.
And I think that's a good point.
So just something I want to make sure we continue to move forward.
To follow up with the bike path, I did have a meeting with the Parkway, Summers Point, and Atlantic County officials, and they're going to be following up in late September, but they did seem optimistic at our request to open the multi-use path, at least possibly in the spring after we can complete our improvements at Belize's Point. So it did look positive in that reflect, but Summers Point wanted just to circle back and check with their governing body to get their final input and comments.
The other thing I wanted to discuss a little bit is not all businesses in our township by far, we're having issues with certain entities in this township not maintaining their properties and then being in violation of their site plan approvals. I just want to make sure we have adequate enforcement rules and penalties in place that we can put a stop to this. They're not using irrigation. We're having to send landscapers out to cut their properties.
Are you talking about commercial properties?
Yep.
Then that would be enforced by the zoning office or the code office, depending upon what the violation is.
By the time you get through the
And-
corporate, Dan, we're 3, 4 months, 6 months into the process.
Depends upon what the violation is. If it's cutting lawns and whatever, and they don't respond to the notices, we can deal with the commercial the same way we would with a
Well, that's what
residential.
we just did that on one.
In
I
fact,
just,
we do it on a couple of properties, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
We just did about 2 weeks ago, we just did one for a commercial property.
Right.
Yeah.
So depending upon the violation, they may have to go to court, or they can be served notices that they're in violation. If they don't clean it up, we'll cut it. And it gets charged back.
yeah, I just, like I said,
But they just need
I'd
to
like to see
identify
it.
that to zoning. You know, somebody needs to.
if there's
tell
any
them.
way to expedite the process, because I said, because
Gonna
I
follow the
know,
ordinances and notices.
Right.
It's streamlined more now than it was a year ago. With the new ordinance, it only has to
can we
come
raise,
before you once.
can we raise the penalties and make it really hit them in the face?
The notices that you're giving are required under the statute, so you have to give them at least a,
Right, the notices, I mean, as far as the penalties, if and
we
when
have
we
two
go to
sets of
court.
penalties. They can,
That would be an ordinance change, wouldn't it?
well, no, it's two sets of penalties. One is if you fine them, they go to the
Right.
municipal court, and the judge would issue this is what I think your fine is, all right? That's one, but to go out and say you didn't clean up your property, we have to clean it up under the proper ordinance and the proper notice, that cost is then assessed back as taxes to the property. So it's two different sets of violations.
So the question I had
Same
then,
facts.
we just did the one down here. That was at a cost of $350. Now, if they don't do it again in the next 2 or 3 weeks, can we double the cost of it? I mean,
No, not the cost of,
The fines.
the fines you can.
There's a, for
Yes.
not mowing for any property, there is a graded scale. I think the first fine is $150, the next one's $250, and the third fine is $500. So there is an
Yeah.
escalating
I
fine
mean,
for not cutting.
It costs them $350 for us to do it. It's almost cheaper
Well,
for them to
that's
have
in
us do
addition.
it.
But that's in addition.
That's an
Let me
addition.
ask you, are we writing violations?
Yes,
Yeah.
They've got a warning, and now we're issuing violations.
yes.
So you just
Well,
keep writing tickets until they start abiding by
Again-
what the ordinance is.
Since we paid to have it cut,
You're confusing.
they should be still going into court. That doesn't stop us taking
There's
them.
there's two issues. One is we can abate it, which is we go out, we spend the money, and we charge it back against our taxes.
Right.
Completely separate from the zoning officer sending a notice of violation, then they go to court, and then they get fined. Two different, same facts, but two different tracks.
We just abated it. Now, my thing is, if you had sent summonses, they still stand, I would imagine.
Yes,
So I just want to make sure we stay on top of it.
and that's something that you could direct the zoning office, if Paul would
Yeah.
maybe explain that there's concern.
Unfortunately, they were pretty contested applications to begin with a lot of promises, and the promises aren't being kept. And,
The zoning officer needs to be made aware of the site plans and
and
all.
Paul and Shelley have been working on it. I just, again, I don't want to see us be 2 weeks from now and we're back there sending another landscaper in there to do it again.
That sounds more like, not just the landscaper, but it also sounds like it should be followed up with violations in municipal court, because
Right, we
that-
need to do
you
both,
keep writing
is
the,
what you're
yes, you need to do
saying.
both. And you keep citing them and going to municipal court, and at some point, the judge is gonna say, you know what, you've been here 5 times, $1,000 fine. And at that point,
But the other difficulty is, especially when you deal with the corporations, they don't show up for court.
So my thing, what I used to do is I would ask the prosecutor and the judge to enforce the biggest fine he possibly could, and that way, if they violate again, they're in
that would be
contempt
the
of
zoning
court.
officer making that clear that this is a repeated
And
violation.
then they're in contempt of court at that point, and it just makes the whole process a lot easier. So, I just want to make sure that, that our prosecutor will do that. I found it's a good way
We
to do it.
can't tell him what to do, you can hire him each year, but you can't tell him what to do. That your prosecutor works with the zoning officer, and the zoning officer would make a recommendation to the prosecutor, and it's up to the prosecutor and the judge, or through a trial, as to whether or not the person's found guilty and what the fine is.
Right.
Unless it's one of the set fines that in the new ordinance, I don't know what, a site plan is not a set fine.
Yeah, grass cutting is, the other ones are not.
Yeah, so grass cutting has a staggered, first time this amount, second time this amount,
So
third
there's-
time.
a lot of times it's shrubs as well as other issues on the
That's a site plan violation, that's different.
So
So if you have a site plan violation,
I just don't want to see it continue. Whatever we can do to,
but that's a site plan violation, she can take them to municipal court.
okay. The other thing I have is, we had a meeting the other day with the car show and the Fall Fest, with the Sheriff's Department, and everybody was there. I think we've got everything in place with a good plan for the whole day. And we're still looking for volunteers, and we're looking for businesses maybe that would want to jump in, plans. I mean, I think Larry's going to call you.
Yes, he did about sponsoring maybe the kids zone area, so.
Yeah, the cost factor keeps going up and up on this, so it'd be a great day. We're talking about doing three of the bouncy, the air things, possibly a rock climbing wall. We've got an interactive pumpkin cannon where it's done with remote control, and the kids actually get to shoot the cannon with the remote control. Petting zoo, pony rides. So we've got quite a few things in there for the kids this year. And if we can get the businesses in there and put signs up, sponsored by, it'll be
We definitely want to be involved, so
a great thing.
the board will be discussing it this week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for reaching out.
All right. And the last thing I have again is we had an issue again the other night at Caldwell. And John noticed it and got hold of Scott, and then Scott got a hold of us with the kids drinking in the park again, and broken bottles and cans and stuff thrown around. We've got to come up with something. What I'd like to see is the internal gates at least should be shut when our guys leave at the end of their shift. At that point, there's no reason for anybody to drive to the back there. And then make it mandatory that all teams, when they leave, close it. Same way with Amanda's Field. I went through again today, and the gate to the baseball fields was wide open again. If it's left open, it doesn't stop anybody from going back there and tearing up a lot of the work we're trying to get done. So, if we could pass it on, Craig or Mike, to the guys that when they leave the park, they should be closing all internal gates and locking them. All right? To try to do a little bit of preventive and be proactive on it. And Scott, I think we need to move forward with the security cameras.
And we do, Paul and I are working on that project right now. We do have some quotes that we will be bringing
Yeah,
to
and I'd like to
the
thank
committee's attention.
the state police again for responding.
And they did address that, I was going to say, they did address that issue the other night.
And then make sure
and
that
they did make an arrest.
whatever we're going to have to do about getting somebody there on the nights when we're not using the park, that those gates should be locked before it gets dark. Kids are smart, they go all the way in the back where nobody can see them. Except for John lives right there, so.
I believe that's where the kids went when I went to high school.
Well, we went there, but there wasn't, 100 years ago.
He didn't mean to say that.
When we went there, it was
Hey,
a
we should
chicken.
encourage the kids to drink, we
It
can't.
was, when we went there, it was a backstop for baseball made out of chicken wire. So we couldn't do any damage, But again, let's move forward with the security if we can. And
None of this.
if the rescue squad can't get there and do the closing in a timely manner for us, which I understand when they're out on calls, maybe we should look to find a local, again, like we used to do with Jeff Holzer, and have somebody local go there and lock the gates. So, that's all I have. That was enough.
Deputy Mayor Barr.
Well, there's only one more week left of the summer, and I'd just like to wish everybody an enjoyable and safe Labor Day weekend. That's it.
Committeeman Corson?
I have nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right. The only other thing I have is that there has been discussion, many of you are aware that, we had the planning board discussion on the Strathmere zoning revisions, and they're looking to potentially have a meeting to at least update, and it really has to be emphasized, it's just a draft at this point. And so the date that seems to work for everybody, Barbara, is September 7th. I believe that's a Saturday at 9 a.m. So you can go ahead and start, informing the proper groups or whatever. But I think this is something, I don't recall, for the bulkhead one, did we actually do a public Open Meetings Act announcement?
The only reason that was done, I'm sorry, was because there was a possibility more than 2 township committee people were going. Barbara and I discussed it, and if you're not going to have up to 3.
Well, I'm hoping that, that depending on Hopi's on the planning board as well.
But if you're only going to have 2, there's no reason for a notice.
Okay. But I want it, absolutely, that's all we're gonna talk about. We're not gonna, it's not gonna be, question and answer thing on every issue, that people would like to talk about. That's what the township committee's for. So we'll talk just about the draft, where we are with it, the process that is still involved. And, we're obviously working with both of our attorneys, both the planning and our municipal attorney, for their input to opine on where they feel the draft should be, so.
Is it something we should have Tiffany there for?
Well, we've already talked to Tiffany,
She's
she'll be there as
scheduled.
well, so that's why the date came to September
How about
7th.
Jeff? If any of the galleries?
If you think there's going to be more than 2 committee people, then
If it's gonna be-
obviously I'll advertise.
Are any other township committee people other than Hobie and
I mean, they're
Rich
welcome to come,
intending to
we can
go?
advertise, I don't know.
If I'm available, I will go, but I don't know what my
Then you'll have to
schedule is.
notice it just in the event.
Let's post it just to be safe.
I think 2 of them covering it's enough.
So I think it just sounds like it's gonna be the 2 of us anyway, so.
All right, so
No. 2 of you or 3?
Well, John, do you want to, if you want to
If
go?
I'm available, I'll be there. Right now, I don't know my schedule for that day.
All right, I'll
Let's
put
post it,
it
be
out
safe.
there,
All
just
right.
in case.
And just to add to that, the planning board did authorize a master plan reexamination, which will include the Strathmere issues as well as other issues, affordable housing, and maybe Beasley's Point, Dale England, since it's decommissioned, and some other issues in the township. So that is all going to happen in the next month or so.
Yeah. But I think the purpose of the meeting is not only to explain where the draft is, but more the process, because there's been some, I guess, misinformation that's being circulated, that it's on the fast track, this is what was decided. When the planning board voted for it, that's what it was gonna be. And, everybody has to take a step back and say this is gonna be more of a long process than, what we had originally experienced in the beginning, so. All right, I'm good.
Okay.
Resolutions?
Item number 1, honoring ShopRite partners in caring and the Marmora ShopRite Associates for their fight against hunger.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. And ShopRite will have their Bag for Hungry event on September 19th at the Marmora ShopRite. Item number 2, in support of a full interchange at exit 20 of the Garden State Parkway in Upper Township.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 3, authorizing a shared services agreement with the Upper Township Board of Education.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 4, authorizing a contract with Atlantic Investigations LLC for an alcohol and controlled substances training and testing program.
Move the resolution? Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 5, appointing Ruderman and Roth LLC and Mark S. Ruderman Esquire to act as special legal counsel in employment and labor law matters.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 6, authorizing the chief financial officer to sign renewal agreements with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey for medical and prescription insurance.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
And I just want to add that, with Barbara's work and we work together, we're fortunate we have a 5% increase. So that's pretty good for this day and age with insurance coverage, so.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 7, declaration of emergency pursuant to Township Ordinance Section 7-3.2 in order to provide temporary no parking restrictions during the Upper Township Pumpkin Classic Car Show and Fall Festival event on Saturday, September 28th, 2019, with a rain day of Sunday, September 29th, 2019.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 8, authorizing payment from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund of Upper Township.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 9, canceling and refunding tax on exempt property for Block 687, Lot 25.08.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. All in favor? Item number 10, canceling tax on exempt property for Block 476, Lot 7.02.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 11, canceling tax on exempt property for Block 561.01, Lot 35.14.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 12, canceling tax on exempt property for Block 453.08, Lot 288.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 13, canceling tax on exempt property for Block 472, Lot 2.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Item number 14, refunding tax on exempt property, Block 564, Lot 19.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
So I just want to add that the canceling of these tax on exempt property and refunding are associated with disabled veterans, so they are tax exempt for their property taxes.
Except the last one. The last one is a nonprofit organization.
Okay. Motion is carried. Item number 15, authorizing a contract with CCG Premium Recovery Group LLC to perform a review of the Upper Township Fire District's workers' compensation accounts.
Move the resolution. Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 16, under ordinances. Introduction and first reading of ordinance number 11, 2019, authorizing the transfer of township-owned land to the Tuckahoe Volunteer Fire Department.
Move the resolution.
Forward, we can have the public hearing on September 23rd.
Okay.
Second.
This is the discussion we've had in the past, right?
Correct. It's a
A lot across the street.
lot across the street where they've historically used that property for overflow parking, and it's a vacant parcel that the township really has no need for, so better to put it in their hands so they can properly police it and patrol it and control the property.
Maintain it.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Plumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 17, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 12, 2019, authorizing the transfer of township-owned land to Habitat for Humanity. And again, the public hearing would be on September 23rd.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo.
Yes.
Motion is carried. 18, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 13, 2019, an ordinance revising job classifications and titles and amending Chapter 5 entitled Personnel of the Code of Upper Township. And again, the public hearing on September 23rd.
Move we introduce ordinance number 13 in 2019.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. 19, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 14, 2019, an ordinance amending ordinance number 21, 2018, known as the salary ordinance for the calendar year 2019, and also the public hearing on September 23rd.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 20, under new business, bid results for landscape services. I believe Mr. Morgan has a report on that.
Yes, we had one bidder for this bid process. Total amount came in at $114,580. I had some initial discussion with our Public Works Administration, and they felt that there's a possibility that they could do a good portion of this work through the manpower that they presently have. But I had a equally informative conversation with Committeeman Young, and I think there may be a possibility to share some of that job task responsibility.
Yeah, I had a talk with Craig about it also, so.
I think if we were to let the Public Works take a crack at it, under Craig's leadership, I think we have a good chance, but we should also look at some of the, maybe the garden clubs or business association. There's a garden club in Upper Township, they might love the landscape and take care of our building, the flower beds. And I don't know if that's a possibility or,
Donate services.
I mean, but obviously they don't have
We
insurance.
would have to have
I mean,
some type of
the
agreement.
only thing that stood out to me was the beach access path. I mean, we have the sweeper to sweep the paths, and the maintenance of that access paths are usually done in the spring anyway. And, you know, I mean, I wasn't necessarily opposed to having, you know, someone, you know, maintain the buildings and plant flowers and those kind of things, but I thought the beach access path thing is something that I would hope the Public Works should be able to do.
And that's exactly
And
what
that's the bulk, I mean, it's $34,000 just for that.
That's exactly what I talked to Scott about. To have an actual landscaper here that's going to guarantee the shrubs, seasonal flowers, yeah, and also do the fertilization and weed control and the whole, everything we need out here on a regular basis. You know, our guys do an adequate job on it, but they're not landscapers.
Were you going to make a suggestion that we rebid this?
I think,
Redo
well,
the specs?
it's broken down.
Well, it's broken down into line items. We can award.
So we can
Well, I mean-
award just part,
You could just award part of it.
yeah.
I mean, so.
You can
and
award
how
part of
about-
it. The only thing that you have to realize is that they bid in the aggregate.
Right.
And is the price going to be the same if you just went out and said, all I need is somebody to do bids?
Exactly. He may say, hey, it's not worth me
You
doing
might
it
get-
if I'm not going
My
to
understanding
get
is
the whole
The
enchilada.
fall price isn't going to be the same. You're not going to get anybody else to bid.
And somebody else might not have bid it though, because they don't have the ability to move sand in Strathmere.
The bid, there was no moving of strand. The work in Strathmere was only for weed whacking and trimming the paths of the vegetative material. There was no movement of sand on the paths. It was just weed whacking the entrances and
Most
the trash
landscapers don't have
corrals.
the manpower. It would need to be done in the fall or the winter.
No,
not
this
in the
is for,
summertime.
it was only for weed whacking.
So it's
And
the
cutting back the
growth that's on the,
vegetation.
behind the dunes on the paths where
Just cutting the paths
poison ivy sometimes
and
builds
weed
up.
whacking those entrances where there's grass around the trash barrels and stuff
I
like
still
that.
think that's something that we should be able to do.
I do.
For that price, yes, I would agree.
I think we should take everything out except for the township hall and see what goes on,
And lawn maintenance, is that just for this property?
just this property. And we would handle
No.
everything else.
No,
No,
7.5 acres.
7.5 acres, just one cut weed for all the property.
it's for,
So it would be
8 or 9
the
properties.
Gandy house, we're talking about all of those properties?
All
Yes.
the properties, one cut weed.
correct.
Is one cut feasible is the question.
So that's the train station, Gandy's property.
Yes.
Community center,
The Battersby Memorial.
Old Town Hall.
Rescue squad.
Rescue squad and
The
our
memorial
facility.
maintenance field.
And then the memorial right by the school there?
School,
This is
yes.
Battersby's memorial.
Right.
How about the Amanda's Memorial?
Yes,
Yeah.
in the front area of it.
So it's just going to be in the fence area he's taking care of, and we'll handle the rest of it?
Whatever was
The
designated.
bids have been written so that you can order unit prices. So that's the price for 7.5 acres. Once you go over it, you do the unit price for the extra. Or if you reduce it, you do the unit price for the less.
The Amanda's Field Memorial is really not that big.
It's not. I like the idea also, it gives us a licensed landscaper on, basically on staff to maybe answer some of the questions with our other fields if we need them. Right now, looking at the fields, we're getting crabgrass preventative, but I don't think they're putting down weed control. And that's why we have so much broadleaf and everything all through these fields. It's kind of a yellowish green color. Yeah, I would like to see us, maybe break the bid down just to do the front of this and to maintain the township hall. I mean, this should be a showpiece. This is where everybody comes, it's our marquee building, and
Well, if we feel that a majority of the lawn maintenance can be handled by Public Works, is that what we're saying? And definitely the beach access, because, I would think that it might more make sense to just, if you're interested in doing seasonal plantings and maintaining the shrubs and everything else, that, it might make sense to have just a new bid just for that. We have plenty of time.
Let's remember the original concept in this bid was to free up a head
Right.
within the Public Works Department who was basically committed and tied to handling the landscaping here at City Hall and maybe one other 2 small projects. So in order to get that head count over to allow more flexibility for Public Works, we were going to go out to bid on the maintenance of Town Hall and whatever other things.
But this isn't just for the
individual's
maintenance of town hall, that's what I'm saying.
Right, this thing has gotten-
I think if we put a bid out just for the maintenance of town hall, that would eliminate somebody being here on, a lot of time.
Anything that individual or that head count was doing should be on this bid. Everything else is just superfluous.
Right. So I guess you could go back to these folks and say that the township committee decided that, all they're really looking for is the maintenance of the outside property of the township here, with the plantings, with the shrubs, and, the lawn cleanup.
Okay. Very good.
I mean,
So
does that make
let's
sense
just
to
be clear,
everybody?
Yeah.
I would like a motion, because we're going to have to write that into the contract, at least initially, what the contractor is expected to do, and you're talking about the
We did-
maintenance of what?
2, 3, and 4. Yeah, basically one of us.
Okay, not lawn maintenance.
Correct.
Well, they could do the lawn maintenance, they could do everything here. They could do the lawn while they're doing the plantings. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that, because I think, to Mr. Coggin's point, what we used to have, that I recall, we had pretty much somebody
Including
who was here
Amanda's
all the
Field.
time.
We had an individual that was here 5 days a week that was maintaining the property. So the idea was to subcontract that work out to free up a head to be used in other areas of Public Works. We were doing this in lieu of adding head count to the Public Works Department.
That person does within the bid, that person does everything but the Strathmere crossovers and the work at Amanda's Field. Correct.
Okay.
That's what that person would do. So if you're looking.
Is that what the bid is?
It's included in that.
Wait a second. Michael, go ahead.
Pete does the work, Pete does the memorial in his field also.
Okay.
Everything on that bid spec, Pete does except for the crossovers and Stratford. Everything else is done by one person.
So the 7.5 acres is done by him?
Yes.
Okay.
So you would, you could award the bid, everything but the Strathmere
Everything but
crossovers.
Strathmere crossovers.
And that would give you what that person.
And how much was the
And then,
bid?
Paul, that's gonna have to be in the contract, just at least
Yeah,
initially.
it should be initiated.
What do we pay this?
I know it's in the specs, but it should be in the contract as well.
Yeah, of course.
Plus.
Go ahead.
Well, then you move it back up to 34,000, and that's what his contract would be.
And there's no cost savings. If you take the,
Well, where you're saving
The
the cost
idea
is
is
the
that we
legacy
can allow
cost as opposed to adding an employee.
Pete to go and help out with potentially other thing, fields and those kind of things.
We've got a major need on playgrounds and all that kind of stuff.
well, it's, what I'm saying is, it's 114,000 if we back out, right?
Well, if you back out the beach access, it comes down to,
80.
yeah, 80,000.
And we're paying a township employee, I believe, somewhere around 50,000 there?
Right, plus a benefit
Plus the
package worth
benefits.
up to 30.
Yes.
Plus, on top of that, you've got your social security and pension. And the pension and benefits are in perpetuity as long as the guy's
And your
alive.
gas and your maintenance on all the equipment and the cost of the equipment. So,
But Pete also does come to the road department at what time to do these.
Yeah, well, we're not saying get rid of Pete, we're just saying
Yeah, no.
this frees him up to do,
I understand, I'm just saying, Pete's done his stuff here, he's also pulled to do these also.
Right.
So he's doing
Snow removal, leaves, and whatever.
everything
Yeah.
else.
And does he do the Christmas decorations here? Well, we want him to
So the
continue to
question
do that,
is,
because he does a
guys,
good job.
at the end of the day, Craig, do we need to go out to bid for this? Can we do this ourselves? With the manpower that we have?
I would like to go out on a limb and say I'd like to try, because we are about to hire a couple more laborers. And I think by giving Pete a couple more guys to work with, I think we could probably take care of this. And of course, I'd like to have any insight from anybody.
well, by
Well, what
hiring,
do you think? Do you think it's a $114,000 try? Right? See if we can do
well,
it
let's,
in-house?
by hiring laborers and headcount, you're also looking at, cost of benefits, cost of retirement, everything else. We've budgeted, when we do set up our budget, we budget for X number of heads. So if we're talking about hiring headcount at this point that's going to exceed the headcount budgeted.
No,
That's what
we're just replacing.
Oh, we're just replacing
Right,
that.
yeah.
But the
yeah.
other
And you
thing
can do it
too,
with those people, I think that we ought to try it.
John, the other thing too that we have to be conscious of is we have a new management team in here,
Right.
all right? And Craig is our top dog over there, and if he thinks that we can do it, and he wants a shot to be able to do it without going out for bid, give it a shot.
Yeah, I
What
agree
do you have to
wholeheartedly.
lose?
my question would
A couple
be,
flowers? I mean,
I mean, right now, we're in August, we're not gonna hire a landscaper for the rest of the summer. So
Exactly.
we don't have to make a decision until January or February.
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
We don't have to make a decision tonight, January or
You don't have
February.
to make a decision tonight, and
Well,
this
on that
was
bid, you
above
have
your
to-
estimate, correct?
September
We
23rd.
do have to
Yeah.
make a
Right
decision
now-
We only have one bidder,
before
so I mean,
September
Oh, I'm
23rd.
sorry. What was that, Paul?
it was, I mean, you only have one bidder, so I think that's, with only having the
I
limited.
understand, but it still was over the estimate,
I didn't do an estimate on
You
this.
didn't do an
This was not
estimate, okay.
my project to do an estimate on.
but you don't have to decide today.
The bid has to be awarded or rejected.
my
before
main
September
thing is,
23rd.
I want the front of this to
Well,
look
then we have to do
professional,
it at the next meeting.
not plan for on every 10
So we're
feet.
gonna have to decide by the next meeting. You're gonna have to have it on the agenda to award it or not.
We're not professional landscapers, and, I just don't want it to be status quo. It needs to be dressed up out here and maintained.
And let me ask you a question, Craig. You came from Stone Harbor, Avalon. Did the grounds crew over there do their own work, or they have a sub out?
Everything.
They did it?
Everything's soup and nuts.
So you have a handle on how to handle this?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we,
I'm willing to try it.
there you go.
All right, then if you've made the decision, we just reject the bids and put it on the next meeting.
So, all right, so I appreciate Craig's input and his willingness to try and help us overcome this. So I would make a motion to reject the bid.
Second.
Third. Fourth.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cogan?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Okay, all right.
I'm getting good with this.
All right, item number 21, bid results for the demolition of unsafe structures.
Who wants to tell us about this?
Just for the record, I have a conflict, I need to abstain.
Yes, Curtis has conflict on one of them, so
Okay.
he's not going to participate.
So it's 4 properties, right?
Yeah, following the procedure for the, I've been working with the construction office on several properties, unsafe properties within the township. 2 of the properties, the property owners followed through and did the demolition of the unsafe structures. This bid was for 3 structures to be demolished. We sent the bids out. There were 17 contractors that reviewed the bids. We had 8 bidders that bid the project. The low bid was for Garden State General Construction at $17,960 for the base bid, and the high bid was $100,191. So they did have a very varying degree of pricing.
I mean, how's that even possible?
Contractors see things differently, and they look at markup, especially when, you're looking at, for a municipal contract, they feel that there's a lot of markup potentially. So it's just how they looked at it.
Do we have references on the low bid?
Yes.
I've never heard of them out there, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, they're a pretty reputable contractor.
They're going to be bonded and
They're pretty active in the county, too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they do a lot of work more in the Southern County. They actually just did a program over in Atlantic City where they, working for the city, where they had a the initial bid was to demolish like 20 structures, and they ended up doing 11 that the city actually awarded them. So they've done several municipal work as well as a lot of private work. Making a recommendation, there was, of the 3 properties, there's 1 property. We've had some discussion with legal counsel. I think we discussed.
We're going to postpone that
We're
one.
gonna
That's
postpone.
1786 Mount Pleasant Avenue. That has a tax lien on it, so in order to preserve the potential lien of the township for the demolition, that's going to be delayed.
So what we're looking at doing is having the demolition of 30 Rivendell, 1790 Mount Pleasant. There was also an item for some sand fill potentially that, as we remove like the foundation of some structures, we may need some sand fill to bring the property back up to grade. And then the 4th was the alternate item, was to remove the vehicles and debris at 1790, 1786 Mount Pleasant that we've had a prior, obviously it's a structure, but these are vehicles that we have a court order allowing us to go in and to remove those vehicles. The vehicles will be credited, like once we have some salvage value of those vehicles, that would be credited back against that unit item price.
So I'm a little confused. So the lowest bid was $17,960.
For the base bid, not, when you look at item 4, like on my schedule, that was an alternate
Item 4 is.
on how I have it listed. In the bid, it was listed as a different item number, but that item was an alternate. So when I listed the base bids, that was the base bid that the contractor, that the bid on the removal of the demolition of 3 structures as well as the sand fill.
Let me ask you, the removal of the vehicles,
Yes,
that's being left to the demolition company?
yes.
Isn't there a more feasible way of maybe getting contracting with, one of these one of these companies that do vehicles? That they would come and remove them all?
Well, that's what they'll do. They're going to go and take them.
Yeah, but now we got another guy jumping in to do this that's not in the business of removing vehicles and giving you a pretty good idea of the turnaround time of getting rid of parts and everything on the cars. I mean,
Well,
you go to a salvage company's going to send in tow trucks, they have the equipment, They're gonna remove all the
Yeah,
cars.
but I think-
Store them and everything.
I don't think it's as easy as putting a tow truck in, because the last time we did this, we had, vegetation that grew through the trucks, and then they wound up having to have, like, front end loading.
But what I'm saying is, did we even reach out to them and ask them for a bid just to remove the
Yes,
cars?
they were one of the bidders that
We
were
did,
bid.
we had salvage companies,
Yes,
cars.
yes. American Demolition up to Mace Landing. And we will be getting the credit back for that salvage value because they're going to take them to the junkyard, the same place that those salvage companies are going to take them to, and we'll get a credit back on that salvage value.
So the removal of the vehicles, which is obviously the highest price tag, that will be put towards the court order?
Yes. And it'll be put back.
Yes.
All of this work will be put back as a lien to the,
Well,
I know, but we've never been paid back for the last time, have we?
yeah, we did.
We got some.
And you're waiting for this work to go in and get your final order on the debris removal, on the vehicle removal. That's my understanding of the cases being handled by Norman Briggs. However, our new ordinance allows us, because of the notices that we sent out, to demolish these structures and remove these things and charge it back against the taxes, which will also occur as a tax lien.
So what's the ask? The ask is for the 33,000, that includes
33,000.
everything?
Yes.
Yes, and I believe it's in your budget, if I'm not mistaken. I talked to Barbara, I thought it was.
30,000 is in the budget. There's enough money in the account to do the entire thing.
That also
You had budgeted for this purpose.
Excuse me?
Well, the one property, we've had,
Septic tanks?
an issue with this for almost 3 years now.
Rivendell's gotta be.
And it really needs to be addressed.
Yeah, that's gotta go.
I agree, ASAP. I mean, the neighbors that are there have been very cooperative, and I think that they have certainly have waited a long time for this to take place, so. So we're actually approving 33,173, is that what you're asking for?
That'd be correct. I don't
And
anticipate
60
the
cents?
I don't anticipate the final invoice to be that because, like I said, on the vehicles,
We'll get a buyback for the
there will be
metal.
a credit back on those.
Basically, you're accepting this Garden State bid,
Yes.
if you find it acceptable and you want to move forward.
This includes if there's any underground tanks. Because it's something a lot of people, they have oil and gas tanks buried. Or is that something that's going to be a separate item?
That would be a separate item because if we don't know it's there, there's no way to disclose it ahead of time. So we'll deal with that when we get to it.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve this award the contract to Garden State General Construction for the estimated amount of $33,173.60.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Abstain?
Abstain. Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried with 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Item number 22, Planning Board Resolution Adoption of Bicycle Plan 05-2019.
There's no action that needs to be taken. This is just a notice that the planning board did adopt the bike plan. I think we presented this to committee back in, February it was earlier this year. Might have been in early May. I forget when it was. And this is just letting the committee know that the planning board had adopted this as part of their master plan reexamination element.
Item number,
Okay, so that's an FYI. We'll move on to the next one.
item number 23, Stockton University Coastal Research Center Second Quarter Survey.
Paul, what can you tell us about this quarter survey?
We lost more sand.
Well, that's obvious. I mean, I go there every weekend,
Yeah,
and the north end has just been devastated.
Devastated, the two northerly beach crossovers obviously have been closed all summer long.
What concerns me is the boulders are starting to come through on that north end.
It's why we left them there.
That was another argument from the time past. No, but he's right, because they wanted us to remove it, and we said, you want to remove it, take it away yourself. But, it's not ever been that eroded that quickly where we're actually seeing boulders now. I mean, we're seeing the rock growing that we put in there.
The good news is the Army
It's there.
Corps has the project out to bid. They anticipate awarding it towards the end of September to get a contractor in starting, it's all, as I discussed before, it's Ocean City, Strathmere, and Sea Isle City, all one part of one large project. So, until they award the contract, know who the contractor is, and have that first meeting to see how they're going to tackle it.
Is that the Army Corps that's putting it out?
The Army Corps is putting it out.
Are they doing Stone Harbor and Avalon? I think Stone Harbor and Avalon are having something done too.
We're not worried about them. We're worried about us right now, so.
Oh, I know, but yeah, the government, they're all looking to try to aggregate all this stuff together. Get one contract.
When you talk to the Army Corps and the Bureau of Coastal Engineering, there's more projects coming out this year that in New Jersey, they don't even know if there's enough dredges in the active dredging areas of the world to be able to come in and do all the dredging. So it's going to get backed up, but we're first in the queue to get the sand, and they anticipate having the job, or the contract calls for to have the job done by March of 2020. So
That's perfect. And they're going to dredge from the inlet?
Inlet and possibly the offshore borough area. They, because I'm sure you've seen that the amount of sand that's actually grown on the northern part of the beach,
Right.
not on the ocean side, but in the inlet, is pretty substantial now. And there's limitations that the DEP and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife have, is that they can't dredge close to dry sand. So they have to maintain a buffer. So there are some limitations within the borrow zone, within the inlet, that they're going to have. So depending on how much sand they ultimately need, I think that most of the sand for the south end of Ocean City and the northern part of Strathmere will all come out of the inlet, but possibly they may need to use the offshore borrow site for the Sea Isle section of the project, possibly.
Just from recollection of what, I guess it was 2008 when we had all the issues and we had that channel that formed, it seems like since they dredged the inlet, and obviously I'm not an engineer, but it seems to me that since they dredged the inlet now a couple times, that we haven't, I should knock wood or whatever, that we haven't had the problem with the channel that's developed for erosion, because I don't think that's what's causing the erosion.
Last year, that's what caused the erosion. That's what kind of bit it in the year before. That's what did.
But now,
this year it hasn't.
Right, I was going to say,
Yeah,
now
this
it's
year-
out.
Correct. So this year it's kind of stabilized, but the damage is done. And, that's why they put the amount of sand out there that they do, and that's why we're in line to come back and fill it back up.
And that's why we left the rocks.
And that's why we left the rocks.
Well, we paid $800,000 to put the rock, we weren't going to take it away.
Remember when we had that discussion with them guys, like, you and I are looking at each other like, nope.
All right, just keep us in the loop on that, because that's really important down there, especially with the start of the hurricane season. Let's hope nothing ever happens, but you just never know.
Well, you want it before the project, not after.
Okay, item number 24, proposed amendments to Chapter 7, traffic.
We had a request from the municipal court to take a look at the system of fines that we have for traffic offenses. It became apparent when all the tickets were issued for parking violations in Strathmere that our ordinance has a appearance required for all the traffic offenses. It never was really an issue because generally in the past they were not massive and they were isolated tickets being written. After looking at it, I talked to the court. We reviewed what they would ordinarily fine someone. We also looked at some other towns, and essentially there's a handful of items in our Chapter 7 that they would require a court appearance. For example, the licensed vehicles only section, trucks over 5 tons on certain streets, and the the handicap parking offenses. Other than that, they're suggesting that $50 fine, no court appearance be required for everything other than speeding, which would be a $100 fine. You set them, I do an ordinance that would allow all this to happen so that our municipal court could run a little smoothly. I mean, you can imagine all of a sudden somebody shows up, there's 20 extra people that have to each have a hearing. Or they show up and say, I plead guilty, and the judge has to figure the fine. So I'm recommending that we adopt those fines, and that requires an ordinance amendment.
Sounds like a plan.
So you need a motion to go forth with the ordinance?
Yeah, why don't you give me a motion?
I'll
to
make
go
that in the
forward?
form of a motion that we proceed forward with this.
And I'll second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
We make it easy.
Someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
There was only one report this evening, the animal control. That report will be available upon request at the clerk's office tomorrow. But I'd like to make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Scott, do you want to introduce the lieutenant again? Like because I really would like to recognize the job that you've done and helped us throughout the summer.
Absolutely.
Not just in Strathmere, but throughout, in the entire part of Upper Township. I really have noticed a much greater presence, and you guys are really doing a great job.
Yes, Lieutenant Bill Henry is the commander of our Woodbine Barracks, New Jersey State Police.
We appreciate all the help that you've provided in the service. I know that we have met at least once this summer, on a meeting with Scott and you and I, I really have seen a greater presence, and so I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thanks to all of the local station. Thank you.
And not only is it recognized by us, I myself, and I'm sure my colleagues, the citizens out there make a lot of comments too, so
Yes.
they see you out there.
You're real happy the way you
There are some negatives, which I know that comes along with the job, but a lot of it was positive.
I can tell you they're real happy the way traffic slowed down through the center of
Yes.
Tuckahoe. And you probably, most of the locals were written, if I had to guess.
You guys made it easy for us to do our job. Like I said, being new here, not that familiar with roadways. All the input you guys have supplied is great, and I agree with you guys on the station and making my job easy. I just sit here and kind of everything, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to open up to the public. If anybody would like to address the Township Committee, now's the time to do so. Please come up to the podium, state your name and your reason for addressing the Township Committee. Don't all jump up at once. All right, it appears that there is no public comment this evening. I want to thank you all for attending, and please drive safely home and have a great week. But I would like to turn it over to Committeeman Coggins to make a motion to go into executive session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters are contract negotiation for a conflict tax assessor and special counsel on ADA matters, and personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Hope everyone has a great week. Enjoy the rest of the day. What little is left of it.